Hi guys, so today we're learning about proportions. And so proportions are often written in ratios, and they can be written in several different ways. Okay, so a ratio is a comparison of two quantities using division. Okay, and the ratio of A to B can be expressed as a fraction where it's A over B, where B is not 0. And it can also be written as A colon B. Okay, so we're going to get started with our first example, which is just practice about writing ratios. Okay? So here it says, the U.S. Census Bureau surveyed 9,490 schools nationally about their girls' soccer program. They found that 309,032 girls participated in high school soccer programs in the 2003 to 2004 school year. We want to find the ratio of girls' soccer players per school, rounded to the nearest person. Okay, so here we want to write a ratio of girls' soccer players to the school, right? So we're going to write it as a fraction. So it's number of girl soccer players to our number of schools, right? And then we want to change it so that it's a unit rate, okay? So that way this ends up simplifying to be 1, right? So that way we know how many girls soccer schools per one school, okay? So here we have 309,032 girls, and we have 9,490 schools. Okay, so we're going to simplify this by dividing by 9,490 so we know how many there are per school. So 309,032 divided by 9,490 is about 32.56. Okay, so we're going to just round it up to about 33 because it wants to the nearest person. Okay, so we're going to say 33 to 1. Okay, and so what that means is that the ratio was 33 girls, or 33 girls soccer players, per school. Right. So this is a fraction way of writing it. This is a word way of writing it. We could have also done it like this. 33 girls soccer players to one school, or we can say 33 to 1. Okay. 3 different ways to write our ratio here. Okay, so why don't you try CYP1, and then once you're done, come check your answer. Okay, so you should have taken your 546 football players over the 26 schools, and it simplifies to 21 over 1. So that means it's 21 football players per high school, or the ratio can be written as 21 and then colon 1. Okay, okay, so now we're going to extend it to our ratios in triangle. So in a triangle, the ratio of the measures of 3 sides is 4, 6, 9, and its perimeter is 190 inches. We want to find the length of the longest side of the triangle. Okay, so basically we have some type of triangle here. Okay, and how it compares is that one side is 4, 6, 9. That's the ratio. Okay, so it's 4 times whatever, 6 times whatever, 9 times whatever. Okay, and its perimeter is 190 inches. So perimeter is to add up all the sides, so that means 4x plus 6x plus 9x will equal 190. Okay, 4x, 6x is 10x plus 9x is 19x equals 190. Divide both sides by 19, x equals 10. So that means this one side will be 4 times 10, which is 40. The other side will be 60, and the other side will be 90. And so the longest side is 90 inches. Okay. So why don't you try CYP2, and once you're done, come check your answer. Okay, you should have gotten 224 inches. If you got that, you can move on to the next example. If not, here is your explanation. So the ratio of the measures of the three sides is 3, 3, 8. So I just drew a triangle, and it's 3x, 3x, and 8x. Its perimeter is 392 inches, so that means 3x plus 3x plus 8x should equal 392. Okay? 3x plus 3x plus 8x is a total of 14 x's, and then I divide by 14 on both sides, I get x equals 28. Okay? So 8x would be the longest side, and since now I know x is 28, it's just 8 times 28, which is 224. And so since there wasn't inches, then it's 224 inches. Okay, so the next part deals with proportions. Okay, so an equation stating that two ratios are equal, so if two ratios are set equal to each other, that is known as a proportion, right? So you've seen that before, such as like 2/3 and 6/9, right? They're equivalent fractions, so 2/3 equals 6/9. This is an example of a proportion, okay? Every proportion has two cross products, so like this, 2 times 9 here, and this 3 times 6. And the extremes of the proportions are 2 and 9, and the means are 3 and 6, right? So the extremes are the biggest multiplying, and the means are the lesser ones, okay? And then, so you have, all you do is you multiply them, and you set them equal to each other, okay? And then here in the book, it explains why we can do that, why we can set them equal to each other. So the reason why is to get rid of the fraction, we can multiply by the least common multiple. So we can multiply by BD on both sides, right? In doing so, this B and this B cancel out, leaving you with just AD or DA, right? And here, when you multiply by this BD, this D and this D cancel out, leaving you with BC. Right, and so that's why we just often talk about cross multiply, right? But really it's because we added D to both sides, multiplied D to both sides and multiplied B to both sides to get it out of the denominator. Right? Okay, so we're gonna do example 3 where we're gonna solve proportion by using cross products. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cross multiply. So then it's going to be 3 times 75 equals 5 times x. So 3 times 75 comes from this. 5x comes from this. Okay. 3 times 75 is 225. 5x. And then I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides, and that gives me 45 equals x, or x equals 45. Okay, there you go. Okay, then we're going to try the next one here. So we're going to do the same thing. We have two ratios equal to each other, so this is a proportion. We're going to cross multiply. So it's going to be 2 times 3x minus 5 equals negative 13 times 4. On the left side, I'm going to distribute the 2. This becomes 6x minus 10. And then negative 13 times 4 is negative 52. Then I'm going to add 10 on both sides. This gives me 6x equals negative 42. And I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides, and this gives me x equals negative 7. There you go. Okay. So why don't you try 3b on your own, and then once you're done, come check your answer. Okay, you should have gotten negative 7 and 3/4. If you got that right, you can move on to our last example. If not, here is your explanation. So again, I have two ratios set equal to each other, so it's a proportion. Okay, I'm going to cross multiply. So negative 4 times 2x plus 5 and 6 times 7. I'm going to distribute this negative 4 into this parentheses. That becomes negative 8x minus 20. I'm going to get rid of the negative 20 by adding 20 on both sides. And I'm going to get rid of this times negative 8 by dividing by negative 8 on both sides. That leaves me with x equals negative 62 over 8. Both of these are divisible by 2, and so that becomes negative 31 over 4. 4 goes into 31 7 times with 3 left over. And so that's why it's negative 7 and 3/4. Okay, so next is example 4. So a twin-jet airplane has a length of 78 meters and a wingspan of 90 meters. A toy model is made in proportion to the real airplane. If the wingspan of the toy is 36 centimeters, find the length of the toy. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our length of 78 meters. Okay. Over our wingspan of 90 meters. Okay. And then equals, okay. We don't know the length of the toy, so I'm just going to put this as my unknown. Right, so this length of the toy we don't know. However, we know the wingspan of the toy is 36 centimeters. Okay, so note that I did it as this is the length. This is the wingspan. Okay. This here is the real thing. And this is the toy. Okay. So now we're going to cross multiply. So 90 times x is 90x equals 78 times 36. 78 times 36 is 2,808. I'm going to divide by 90 on both sides, and I get 31.2. And so what that means is the length of the toy is 31.2 centimeters. Okay. Okay. If you look at the way the book does it, the book sets up the ratio differently. Okay, so I'm going to write how the book sets it up. The book sets it up as this. But we still ended up with the same answer, okay? And why is that, okay? So the reason why is because they set it up instead with length being this and wingspan being this. Okay? And then they set up real as this and toy as this. But what you will notice then is that it's still this and this, right? As long as we stay consistent, then it's okay, right? So the only difference is I did mine horizontally where they did theirs vertically. But in the end, as long as we stayed consistent, right? As long as this row stayed the same of what we're talking about and this row stayed the same as what we're talking about and our columns stayed the same about what we're talking about, then we'll still get the same answer, okay? Okay, so why don't you try CYP4 and then once you're done, come check your answer. Okay, you should have gotten that the two cities are about 1,947 miles apart. If you got that right, you can get started on your homework. If not, here is your explanation. Okay. So I set up my proportions. So 1.5 centimeters represents 100 miles. So 1.5 centimeters represents 100 miles. That's my scale. Right. I put the map measurement on top with the real measurement on bottom. Okay. So then, if we're talking about the distance from these two cities, Atlanta to Los Angeles, if on the map they're 29.2 centimeters, I'm going to put that on top where I put the other map measurement. And then that's going to be over my unknown real measurement. Okay. Then I cross multiply 1.5 times x equals 29.2 times 100. Okay. 29.2 times 100 is 2,920. Okay. Get rid of the times 1.5 by dividing by 1.5 on both sides, and that's approximately 1,947. And there you go. That's it for today. Have a great rest of the day. Bye, guys.